Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode from Wisco Boater on the Nep'Toon micro tugboat. I just got done installing the pivot blocks up front here. Could not find a good location for me to actually video this process, but all it was using the tube here to position the top block over the hole that I drilled, and then also using it to position the lower block. Once that was in place, mixed up some epoxy resin and spread it out, glued those down, and then also glued the quarter round piece that's on the edge of the shelf there. The quarter round in place, that'll keep that nice and straight, and actually a little bit stronger too. So it's going to be clamped for a few hours here, and then I can start working on the getting this tube trimmed one more time. It's probably about 6 to 8 inches too tall, too long at this point. So now that I got those positioned, I will put this back in the control head and figure out where I need to make my cut. Okay, so got the trolling motor control head. I'm going to try to show how I'm going to figure out how to cut this. So I think you can see that's the bottom pivot block there. The top one here. This is all glued in place now. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze because the bottom of the tube is frayed a little bit. Actually, I don't like how tight that is. I'm going to sand that. Try it again. I took just a little bit off the end on the belt sander. Do a little bit of sanding inside the hole. I think that's what's working against me here. There. Okay. Put a little piece of tape on the bottom, so I know exactly where I need to mark that. Of course, it's not going to slide back up through the top block with that tape in place, but once I pull it out of that block, I just want to know how deep I am into this block. Actually go in that far, did it? It's a little tight. We'll make sure, I'll make sure and sand off a little bit there to make that a little less tight. I might have a little bit of yet to be cured epoxy working against me at the top as well. But the main thing I want to do is get this thing trimmed down so the control head is down, like down here. So I gotta cut off the length of the tube. So this shouldn't be that hard to do as far as cutting through, but I just got to make sure to get it measured correctly so I don't got too much off. Test fit number 2. Got full range of motion. Got clearance. I think that's good. So I think what I'll do now, pull it back out. I'm going to take the tube back off the head, slide it back down in here. I'm gonna coat this bottom pivot block with grease. I'm gonna coat the inside. Never used grease on a wood block before, but I would assume that it performs the same way that it would in any other medium. Okay, so that goes through, and then this goes on like that. Well, it's on there for now. This will get mounted and tightened just so the heads of the screws that keep this plate in place are just barely above the pivot block, so as not to interfere. And then the push-pull tube gets mounted through here and then runs underneath the tunnel that way. I'm going to remove the screws that hold the cover of the control head in place. I kind of figured I would have to take these off. I could take this off again. That's if you were making the actual modifications according to plans, like ground wire would be required. But since I'm not changing any of the wiring, there is no need to run that ground wire. So what I'm going to do right now is, after I get the cover off the control head, I'll probably end up getting the tilt handle messed up again, so that'll have to be reset. But I got to figure out a way to bring those two wires, these two wires here, through the case rather than through the tube. I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect these from the circuit board. Get it pulled up through here. At least I think so. Grief. Yeah, plug them back in. Okay, now they're on the outside, and I'm just going to drill a hole right here, unless, can I bring them through there? Okay, I'm going to get this grommet out, and then I might just be able to run those wires right through that hole. I'll just put a bead of silicone around it to capture them. Oh man. I'm looking at the diagram. It's just a strain relief grommet, so it should just pop right out of there. Not really sure why it's not coming out. Well, one thing's for sure, it's not, I'm definitely breaking it as I try to get through. It should be fairly simple. I don't understand what's going on. Here's the control head. You'll notice I straightened all the letters out on both sides. Actually looks nice now. So with the wires hanging out the hole there, I can just drop the control head right onto the tube, just like that. Fish the screw through, just like that. tight. I got 2 Allen head screws. And that's just clamping pressure on the tube. So there we go. The tube is in place. It actually moves nicely. And the wires, 2 of them are gonna run off that way into this tube right here. So a set of wires are gonna run off to that side, into that, come right down around and in that tube. Probably drill a little hole right here. And then the other set of wires for the battery cables will go off of that side. Same tube on that side. So this is great. This looks really good. The only thing that I don't understand at this point is how the control head just stays in place. I mean, if you lift up on it, it's going to come out. I mean, the control tube, the push-pull tube down on the floor, it's going to be limited by lifting up on the board here, but there isn't anything that keeps the bottom of the tube captive, really. It just kind of sits in there. Well, that's good. I mean, that's mission accomplished tonight. Really, all I wanted to do is get the height of the tube cut correctly and get that installed. Next, we'll be installing the push-pull tube that runs from the control head back to the control arm back there. So there's some geometry that I'm gonna have to get figured out so that it has the correct amount of travel. Now this is really really good, really interesting. I think this looks great. I feel like I say this looks great a lot, but I'm thrilled with the way things are turning out. When you're building from plans, you never really know if what you're building is going to turn out exactly to plans. But that's one of the cool things about building from plans is you kind of make it your own. Like this top deck here, it's got a curve to it. Plans call for it to be a straight deck. I kind of like how it looks with the curve. It's going to mess with getting the panels lined up just a little bit, but honestly don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Tomorrow I have 10 gauge wire and 6 gauge wire arriving. Depending on if we get a snowstorm or not tomorrow, I may be working on this, I may not. If we get a snowstorm, I'm staying home. If we don't get a snowstorm, I am going to Lake Villa, Illinois for a beer release party at Revolution Brewing. One of the best breweries in the nation. It's gonna be a good time. So, well, I thought I was recording the whole time I was installing the front half of the push-pull tube, but apparently I missed hitting the button. Did not get any of that recorded. I will set this up again and at least record the back half. After I cut off, I gotta cut off just a little bit of length right where that mark is. So I'm gonna do that with the pipe cutter and then I'll set the camera back up. But you can see it's connected to the lever up there. We're right up against the wood there. I might have to put a slight bend in that, but I wanna get it all connected and see how the geometry actually works to move everything before I go putting more bends in it. Get a washer on here. Let's do 2 washers. Okay, and then we'll get this on. Okay. So another washer on the bottom. And I'm thinking this might all be for naught because I don't know that I can get the nut underneath. Nope. Not even close. That means I gotta loosen this, bring it up a little bit, set it back down, all while trying to keep the motor from falling out the bottom. In order to loosen this up without having the motor just fall through the bottom of the hull, because there's no other support for it other than the clamping pressure from that control arm, I used a jack to just barely touch the skeg. That will keep it from falling while I loosen this up so I can lift it, install that nut, put it back down, and then retighten it. Okay. It's loose. That one's loose. it's up just enough. This is difficult to do in the blind. I cannot see anything. Now that's upside down. If it was like this, going like that. So I gotta feel it. It's gotta feel like I'm loosening it. I'm actually tightening it. Right? All right, how's that look? Pretty good. All right, now I shall move the camera back over here, tighten this up yet again, and then go back and retighten the control arm. All right, let's see. Got the control head straight. I've got the control arm back there tightened back up. All of the push-pull tube is nice and steady. We're gonna put this. Let's see. All right, there. All right, so I'm gonna move this for the first time. That way. That moved. Goes the other way. Sweet. Okay, so I just cleared up the little bit of interference that I had using a wood chisel. Just cleared a little bit of wood right there. So now I have no rub. Fits perfectly right down the side. And nothing was compromised as far as structure goes or the tunnel. So yeah. All good. Next time I have some epoxy mixed up, I'll come in here and just dab that exposed wood to cover it up. But otherwise, this part's done. Time to start wiring. Okay, working on wiring, doing the battery cables. I ordered this from Amazon, and this is 6-gauge welder's cable. Well, welder's / battery cable. It is Windy Nation PowerFlex welding and battery cable. Good to 600 volts. Well, we don't have anywhere near that much requirement, but this is good stuff. And then I also ordered 10 feet of 10 gauge, and this stuff, I don't know, it's good stuff too. I didn't want to go get hardware store wire. Spent a little bit more than probably needed to, and especially since I also found out that this came in a 15-foot length, and I only need about 6 feet. Oh well, I got extra wire for other projects and needs down the road, I suppose. I don't have wire strippers that go this big, so that's why I was using an X-Acto. So I already crimped the positive wire and just getting ready to do the negative. And I've got the terminal, or the butt splice, already crimped. To this side, I've got a piece of heat shrink on here ready to go. So we'll get this piece of wire stuck in there, and I'll crimp it and heat shrink it. Okay, with that stuck in there, do a crimp. All right, got a good solid connection, good solid butt splice. So I'll slide the heat shrink over. Okay. Battery cable wires are done. Well, they're ready to be run through the tube. Okay, I'm going to drill a hole up under here so the wires can pass through the shelf and still have plenty of slack in order for the control head to turn. And while I'm down here, I might as well do this side. Yeah, that was the pilot hole for the spade bit. Spade bit's it's not gonna like this thin 1/4 inch plywood, but I'll do the best I can. That's kind of what I figured would happen. I got a little bit of a tear in the fiberglass as it popped through. So not a huge deal, but I will now have to put some epoxy back down to glue this back in place. All right, well, the hole is made. I probably should put something around this hole to keep the wires from chafing. Actually, maybe I'll just silicone them in place. And I could just silicone over that fiberglass and call it done. Yeah, let's turn the camera so you can see what I'm doing over here. Ow! What a nice little mess. Okay, there's a hole on that side for those wires, and a hole on that side for the battery cable wires. Always making messes. I'm going to connect do the splices on these wires that are going to run that way to the hole that I just drilled. I hate this song, but I'm not going to get up and go all the way over there to change it. This wire is too big for the strippers as well. Okay, I've got 10 to 12 gauge butt splices here. There. I always put these in with a little bit of a twist. Get those wires nice and snug up in there. Okay. That's good and solid. I'll do the same thing on this side. See, I got red heat shrink for the red wire. Just long enough. So I always do the crimp, and then I take just a little bit of a light crimp on the end there, just to get the insulation locked in place. Got a good splice. One done. This wire here that I'm using, it's a very nice wire. It's a very high quality wire. It's a 1050 strand wire, which means there's 1050 strands of wire inside here, and they're very, very fine. So getting them to cooperate to go in the butt splice can be a little challenging, but I just got it. Okay, got a good splice there. Two wires ready to run down the conduit. Here we go. All right. So back up here, wire's gonna run from the control head through that hole into the conduit. What I need to do, or what I will be doing, is figuring out exactly how much slack is gonna be needed so that the motor can turn that way and that way, which doesn't look like it's really gonna make much difference. And we've got plenty of wire back here. We'll come over And splice right onto those two wires. Okay, I was just trying to get all the crimps out of it, or twists, I mean, out of it. And I'm gonna feed both of them at the same time because trying to get one cable down the tube with one of them already in the tube would be impossible. The rubber would just create too much friction. And it runs all the way down this conduit. All right, I got the wires nice and organized for now. There's not much length over there to worry about organizing. This is looking really, really cool. Push-pull tube's done, motor control's done. Figure out how to secure those wires or maybe hide them just a little bit better after I know exactly how much length I need back there. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this part of the video with getting the wires on that side, which are just the control wires, controlling how much power actually goes to the motor when you twist the throttle. So I finished that side up, bought some cushion clamps to do a couple of service loops, keep that in place, and yeah, it's time to move on to the cabin. But 2 wires to splice, heat shrink, clamp them in place, and we'll be done with this part. Little screws, cushion clamps, and I'll show this a little better after I get this done. Alright, these cushion clamps are too small for that big loop, but I do have a bigger clamp. Bigger clamp. Here you can see the cushion clamps are in place, and the last thing I'm going to do is take a small section of corrugated tubing and just put it over this just to protect it from chafing on the wood. And this side will be officially called done. I'll get that corrugated stuff on in just a second and I'll show you. Alright, so to wrap this up, I put the corrugated cover on. This stuff is just real thin wall corrugated wire cover. Has a split down the middle, so even if wire's already in place, all you gotta do is open that up and wrap it around. I did put a one piece of electrical tape on this end just to keep that brown ground wire that's not being used captive. I tested the movement. Perfect, all the way left, all the way right. The cover, the bench that'll build on top of this, we'll just push this down a little bit, so it'll stay right about there once the bench is in place. So this will be the wrap up of this portion. The battery cables here, I'll worry about later. I don't have batteries yet. Haven't even researched batteries. So, but one battery, it will sit there and one battery will sit right there. But as far as hooking them up, I haven't done any research on which batteries are best. If I need a marine battery for this application, or just what type is actually required or needed. So I'll do that, and batteries will be later on, probably as they get a little bit closer to being done with this. There's no real reason to test the motor or anything at this point, so I will be starting with the sides of the cabin when I come back next time. I got a work trip coming up. I'll be gone for well, a week, and then back for a week, and then gone another week. So hopefully I'll get some time on this in between trips, but this will be the last video update for probably a week, week and a half. So hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.